Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Sun opposite to Neptune in Synastry. A few of you, or some of you, are asking if the Sun square to Neptune video I did yesterday is the same as the Sun opposite to Neptune, and usually, in most cases, I always separate the square and the opposition aspect, even though sometimes in Synastry books they are lumped together. I find them to be very different, and in pretty much all cases, usually the opposition is a bit better, at least in my opinion and experience. So whenever you guys see that, like sometimes I separate the trine and the sextile aspect too because they are slightly different. And definitely the inconjunct or quincunx aspect is not the same as the opposition or the square. They all have their own flavor. So that's why I wanted to do a separate video on the Sun opposite to Neptune aspect in Synastry. So here it is. So this aspect of all the Sun Neptune aspects, even more than the conjunction, I'm going to say, okay, now that might be controversial, but I actually feel like this opposition is the strongest felt of all the Sun Neptune aspects, and there is the biggest level of idealization of a person that we can experience. Now, the difference between this aspect and the square is that it usually works out better. It usually is that we're not completely as diluted as the square, but also the Sun person does a bit better with this opposition. It's a little bit easier to learn from someone when we have an opposition than when we have a square. Now, that's just how I feel. So, this opposition tends to create this feeling of like longing for somebody. That's what I've noticed. I've had this on either side, where I've been Sun and where I've been Neptune. And there is always this weird ethereal longing for someone. Especially if this aspect is in a double whammy, or if there's other Neptune themes going on, or if it's very close in orb, we can really feel like we have found someone in this relationship that sees us or that gets us. And the Neptune person can really feel like to the Sun person this kind of like magical person that understands their soul and their identity and their light. And on a good day, the Neptune person can really do a lot to grow the Sun person's confidence. Now, if you have other difficult aspects, the Neptune person, just as easily as they can help grow the Sun person's confidence, they can destroy the Sun person's confidence. But it's not in the same type of destroying like Saturn, where we're being critical, or Pluto, where we're being controlling. The Neptune person will confuse the shit out of the Sun person. So the Neptune person, through sometimes even lying or evasiveness or just being hard to reach or hard to pin down, can actually destabilize the Sun person's confidence so much that the Sun person starts to doubt who they are and what they know to be true. And this aspect can really destroy the Sun person's confidence. So in all cases, that's not going to happen. Sometimes it's not going to be as severe as that, but you just want to be noting that the Neptune person's effect on the Sun is either to like mysticalize, if that's not even a word, but like almost like download them with a spiritual soul quality that they feel they need, because when we have an opposition aspect, we're really seeing each other as like a projection. Like we need that energy to have balance to our Sun, to our ego. So if the Neptune person is coming from a good place of integrity, that's important, they can really help like spiritualize the Sun person's Sun. which can help their confidence, help their success in life. But half the time, because this is an opposition, or some of the time, the Neptune person can really just confuse the sun and make the sun feel that maybe their goals or their, like, what they're working towards as far as their confidence and their goals, are not good. That the sun can kind of or the Neptune can kind of have an undermining influence on, the sun has certain goals and ways of being that they are striving towards in their sun sign, and the Neptune person, by being around them, they can feel like maybe those aren't the right goals, or maybe they need to be modified. It can really make the sun person question themselves a lot. But it can also make the sun person, through self-reflection, so much more clear on their goals and on their purpose. And so it's like the evasive, like, diffusing energy of the Neptune can actually end up backfiring and creating more confidence in the sun. So that's just like some of the negative things that can happen. Another negative thing that could happen with the Sun Neptune aspect, like this one, is if either are prone to addiction or escapist tendencies, this aspect can reinforce those. So you could see this in a couple that is like, abusing drugs together, or alcohol, or sex addicts, or, whatever it is, addicted to anything like entertainment, gambling, whatever their predisposition is for addictions, that it can be brought up in this relationship, because the Neptune energy is strong with this one. Like I said, I think it's the strongest of all the Sun Neptune aspects when we have this opposition. Now, on the positive side, because this aspect, the reason I needed to make it separate to the square is because I actually do feel like it is a lot more positive, even if it hasn't sounded like it yet. This one, you can really feel seen and understood. And actually, the Neptune person really idolizes the sun. The sun person, to the Neptune person, expresses like the most beautiful qualities of leadership. And they can really feel like the sun is like kind of manly too, or like in their masculine energy, even if it's a woman. Like, they respect those authoritative qualities of the sun person, and the Neptune person can actually really look up to the sun. And there can be a little bit of like a fan club. Like, they can actually be like the sun person's fan. And if they're not in a really solid place of self-worth themselves by looking at their own sun, that is when they could have a more negative influence, because it's almost like it could be that they're a little jealous of the sun, right? And it's a different kind of jealousy than like Pluto. It's like if the Neptune person is not strong in their own self-worth, they can really idolize the sun but feel unworthy, like that the sun gets to live the dream and is like kind of this egotistical person, but yet they're the selfless giver, and they never get to be like that. Like, if that makes sense. Sorry, it's kind of hard to explain, but like, it's a weird form of jealousy where it's like the Neptune feels like all sacrificial, like that they don't, or they aren't possibly able to embody that light that the sun is. And then so they kind of, if they're not very evolved, can undermine them. So it's a really interesting aspect. This is the kind of aspect that you can dream of someone nonstop. It's weird. It's really eerie and weird, the level of soul connection you have with someone when your Neptune is opposite their sun, or your sun is opposite their Neptune. It's like they can be in your dreams repeatedly. And even if this person is like your mortal enemy, which in fact, I only have one so-called enemy, and we have this aspect. And even though all that I have gone through by the hand of this person I still have a weird soul love feeling towards him. And I dream of him often. And in my dreams, we are soul friends and buddies. So there's this weird compassion and like openness that you have with this aspect where it doesn't matter what they do to you. It's like you can forgive them because it's just really powerful, and it really feels like a significant soul encounter. And I guess there's a lot of delusion and a lot of like seeing each other not for what you really are, and then you can end up being extremely shocked when the veil is lifted and you're like, wait, that's who this person is. And like there can be a wake up after a certain point where you just like the fog is lifted and you're like, whoa, like what was I thinking over these years? And it's not that you're seeing them entirely wrong, but you'll just have some sort of wake up call at some point that's like a revelation of like, wow. And you can understand the soul connection. You can understand why it had to take place. You can understand the romanticism. Like, and this is a very romantic aspect. So, in a long term relationship with other synastry that is strong and some Saturn to ground it, this can be a very beautiful aspect because you have those qualities of feeling understood, feeling seen, feeling like you have this special soul friend. It's a very close aspect. You do, even if you're far, you still feel close. You still dream of them. They just have a powerful effect on your life. And I think that it really is a soulmate aspect. And so if you do get to have it in your relationship, it can work. You just have to watch out for those red flags that I've said. The sun person needs to make sure that their ego and their drives in life are not being put down or subtly diffused by Neptune. They need to make sure that they're actually being increased by Neptune, right? So that takes a lot of sun strength to withstand that Neptunian fog. But if Neptune is really coming from a good place, the sun person can actually be built up. And it's a really significant contact for both people. It's a very spiritual one. It's one of the Neptune contacts that I do feel gives the strongest Neptunian fog, but it's not as damaging or difficult as the square. So I'd love to know your experience of this aspect, if it was like this, if it wasn't like this. Let me know in the comments, you guys, and thank you for watching. Keep your requests coming, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye.